CBS Sports HQ, I'm Chris Hassel. We're going to pick every game in Week 9 against the spread. Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco are standing by. Look, we're at the halfway point in the season now. 17 games for the first time in NFL history, so 18 weeks in all with the bye. We are at the halfway point. We look back to Week 8 and look ahead to Week 9.
Week 8 in the NFL was one of the most unpredictable of the season thus far, featuring several upsets with backup quarterbacks leading their teams to victory. So what does Week 9 have in store? The Saints will be without starting quarterback Jameis Winston, who will miss the rest of the season with a torn ACL, but will have a chance to move into first place in the NFC South with a win over the Atlanta Falcons.
It's a division game, and it means a lot.
After getting back in the win column on Monday Night Football, the Chiefs will have a much stiffer test against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, who are riding a 7-game win streak.
We're a gritty team. Adversity has hit us many times in the fourth quarter, and we've responded really well.
The Arizona Cardinals, who were handed their first L of the season by the Packers on Thursday Night Football, will look to bounce back against the 49ers in the Bay to stay in first in the NFC West.
You're going to face adversity. This is the NFL, so we knew it would come.
And there's a monster matchup on Sunday Night Football with the first-place Tennessee Titans having to overcome the loss of King Henry and travel to SoFi to take on the high-flying L.A. Rams.
You know, I feel lucky to be where I am, surrounded by the people that I'm surrounded by.
Who will rise to the occasion in Week 9? If it's anything like the first 2 months of the season, expect the unexpected.
All right, so let's see how. Oh, another winning week for both Brady and Pete. How about that? Both?
We pushed on one. It was a 3-point spread when we pushed.
I don't tally it up.
I do the accounting. We were 8-6. I was 8-6.
I don't know. You got to talk to Jack, our producer. I
think you would have been 9-5-1, but I feel back in double digits.
But I still had a winning week, and I still won the week, and I'm
both had a winning week.
And I'm starting to separate.
Both of you have your heads above water, though. Both above 500
you last
for the
week.
season.
Yeah,
I'm starting to separate. I got 5-game lead on you now. A little bit of separation.
There's a lot of. We're at the halfway point of the season, Pete. There's a lot of time.
It'll be 10.
Long way to go.
Because of your old age? Are you pooping out here at halftime?
No, that means
you need to go take a nap.
No, that means it'll be 10
you need to go take a nap,
by the end of the year.
Huh, Grandpa Pete?
No, I'm fine. I'm
tired, huh?
Reinvigorated, baby.
We'll get you some coffee. You'll be fine.
No, I'm fine.
We'll make it
Red Bull.
We had that great Thursday nighter last week, you know, the Packers and the Cardinals. This week, Jets and Colts. But hey, it's football, and our Sportsline simulations suggest that the Colts still have a pretty good chance of making the playoffs because of the schedule straight ahead. I think it's
not as a division
Jets
winner
this week and Jaguars next week.
But as a wild card team, which I would challenge that.
I would too.
Especially the way they're playing. Look, defensively, I think there's elements they're fine, and they can run the football. I don't know what is going on with Carson Wentz when he gets in some of these tough situations. And that was the worst interception I've seen him making his career. Maybe we'll see this entire season.
Worse than the one he had earlier this season?
I don't know many guys that can say they've thrown an interception in the NFL with both arms. And not only did he throw it with his left hand, he did it was a pick six. It was awful. It's just take the safety or get rid of the football sooner. And that's the biggest issue with him this year. He's holding on to the football so long, and the longer he holds it, the worse things happen. It is tough to watch at times. It really is. And he doesn't have to be everything for this team. He's got some weapons. Michael Pittman's really stepped up and has played a pretty big pivotal role. Their defense has gotten better, even though at times they've been banged up. And they're running the football well. So I look at it, and I'm saying all this, but the Jets are just awful. I know they won last week. That was an aberration, as you like to say. I hate bet against Mike White, our South Florida prospect or product. But it's 10.5 points. The hook kind of bothers me. I think the Colts steamrolled the Jets here, though.
That's right. Mike White is from the University School down the road.
University School, that's right. Western Kentucky.
And he was on the Better Than team when he came out. How about that?
Oh, really?
And he can sling it. Like what we saw is what he's capable of. He can throw it around the park.
I like him. I think he's going to be a backup quarterback in the NFL for a long time. The unfortunate thing for the Jets, he's starting right now. And he played very well.
He's an upgrade for what Zach Wilson
He played much better than Zach Wilson. Look, there are plays where you can watch the tape, Brady, where he's spinning his head. He's going through his progressions. He's getting to the right guy. That's a step up from Zach Wilson, and I think they'll be okay from that standpoint. But they're not going to win this game. It's a short week. You're coming off a big win for you, and I think the Colts have to rebound here. And you mentioned, Chris, about making the playoffs.
Hey, I've got the numbers here from Sportsline, and I'm guessing you're going to have a problem with this. Sportsline says right now Colts have a nearly 40% chance to make the playoffs. Chiefs have just a 31% chance.
I would bet money, a lot of money, that the Chiefs are making it over the Colts. I'm sorry. As bad as the Chiefs have been, They are still making the playoffs over the Colts this year. You could save this clip, hold me to it. All right, because that is happening. I'm sorry. And they might both get in.
They're looking at
but
the
Chiefs
schedule.
are getting in. The Colts have a better chance of not
They're looking
getting in.
at the
shocking.
They're looking at the schedule. They have the Jaguars twice and they have the Texans, right?
Yeah.
I think that's 3 of their games right
And
That's
the
what
Jets this week.
Right.
Double-digit
That's 4.
favorites.
So that gets you 4. But somebody was trying to say they could win the division. They're 4 games behind the division. I looked at
3.5.
and I looked at the Titans schedule. They have the same teams on theirs.
The Titans are getting to 10 wins like that.
Right.
They'll be at least a 10-7 team, and then we'll see what they can get from.
But I'll take the Colts this week minus the points. Short week. Jets coming off their big win. There's going to be a letdown.
Okay, so both on the Colts minus 10.5. That's the Thursday night game. Moving on to Sunday, the early games there. Vikings missed a golden opportunity to get into that playoff spot at the midway point against the Dallas Cowboys. Now they have to face Lamar Jackson.
What a dope I am, okay? Because I took the Vikings last week.
Big
It was
game,
prime
Kirk.
time, big game. He became what he is. I mean, he was awful. If he hits the shot down the sideline to Justin Jefferson, it's 14-0, and the Cowboys are going home, and the game is over. Period. He missed it. It was a terrible throw. Now, Jefferson kind of slowed down. It was still a bad throw. Hit the throw, game over. From that point on, he became Kirk Cousins in a big game. He looked like he was past it. Opening drive, bing, 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 right down the field. Misses the throw, back to being Kirk Cousins again.
That being said,
I'm taking the Vikings in this game.
Why?
Because I think after the big game on the road, it's not a really big game in the grand scheme of things. I think he's going to play well in this game and rebound. Those receivers will be able to make plays.
You're saying he's going to keep it close. They're not winning at Baltimore.
No, they're not winning. You saw what Joe Burrow and that passing game did to the Ravens. I think this team's going to be able to do that as well, provided they throw the ball. I thought their plan was awful the other night. Awful.
Different, comparing him to a divisional matchup. I do think it's going to be interesting to see Marlon Humphrey against Justin Jefferson. Obviously, Humphrey struggled against Chase, but still a lot of cornerbacks have.
And C.J. Uzama.
I keep going back to last week because when we made that pick, and I was on the side of Dallas, we thought Dak Prescott might be playing.
Right.
It ends up being Cooper Rush. Yeah. I almost reached out and texted you and said, I want my pick back because that's unfair. But I said, all right, let's see how this whole thing plays out. And it ended up working in my favor.
Think about it. You decided to stick with your pick because of Kirk Cousins in primetime.
That wasn't my rationale, but it ended up working out because it was Kirk Cousins.
By the way,
in prime time.
We wouldn't have let him change anyways.
That's true.
Lock him in.
I'm on the other side of this one. First, Baltimore's a tough place to play. I don't see things getting any easier for Kirk Cousins and the Vikings going up against that defense. I think the other thing is the Vikings defense is going to have a hard time stopping the rushing attack with Lamar Jackson. This is a team that's going to be rested. They're going to be ready to go. I'll lay the 5.5 points. I think the Ravens win by a touchdown. And by the way, I think a lot of scoring in this one. I'm taking the over. I like that bet as well in this one.
Since you're done with the Lions, if the Vikings don't cover this one, I'm done with the Vikings. How about that?
Yeah, thank God I don't have to pick the Lions this week, right? Because I haven't been able to figure out the entire season.
yeah, Lions, one of the teams at the buys this week, right? Let's move on to the team that beat the Vikings without Dak Prescott. That's the Dallas Cowboys. At home is a 9.5-point favorite here against the Broncos. It's still early in the week as we're taping this, but hopefully we'll get Dak Prescott this week.
Maybe I'm crazy. I don't think the Broncos are as bad as this line is portraying them to be right now. And I know they've struggled. They're banged up at the linebacker spot. We know that. Garrett Bowles is a little bit banged up.
Traded
He struggled of late. Traded Von Miller. I get all that. 9.5 points is a big spread for a Dallas Cowboys team that I'm not ready to buy into them being consistently what I think they've been this year when Dak's been the starter. Now, I'm assuming Dak is starting this game. If it's Cooper Rush, I like taking the 9.5 points and being on the side of the Broncos just as much too. But I do think this is a spot where I think Denver, that maybe surprised some people early in the season, I think they start to get back on track here. I think they maybe keep this one close, stay within the number, maybe even pull off the upset. But I don't think there are 9.5 points of difference between these two teams.
So, I'm going to take the Cowboys because I think Dak is playing. You're starting to hear rumblings that he's okay. He's probably going to play. That's why this number is 9.5. If he doesn't play, it probably goes down to, 7.5, something like that. So I'm going to take the Cowboys. I think the offense of the Broncos is awful. I don't think Teddy Bridgewater's that good.
A lot of pressure on Pat Shurmur, the play calling, not even so much Bridgewater, just a lot of what's going on offensively with that.
It's not very good, and they probably should have lost to Washington last week. They should have. I know, but that's a bad Washington team.
Did you pick Washington in that one?
I did.
Okay.
And they won't move the
Why is it always they should have lost and it coincides with your pick?
Because that's usually the way it works.
Okay.
If it doesn't go my way, they should have lost. But but the Broncos didn't move the football at all on a bad defense. Everybody's moved the ball on that defense. So I don't think they're going to move on the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys will win this game by maybe 14.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see.
They were able to snap that 4-game losing skid, though Pete says they shouldn't have because he picked them last week. The New Orleans Saints, first game without Jameis Winston, maybe the first game with Taysom Hill as the starter if he clears concussion protocol and he's good to go. They're 6-point favorites at home against the Falcons.
Yeah, and I think this has everything to do with Sean Payton, the Saints playing a home game, the way the defense has played this year, because obviously a lot of indecisions about the quarterback position. And even with Taysom Hill, I think we saw last year, too, the limitations of him throwing the football down the field. And that's a real problem, especially when you're going up against the Falcons team that is finding their rhythm. They're finding their groove offensively. Kyle Pitts is a tough matchup. Matt Ryan's playing better football right now. So I'll go ahead and take the 6 points because I don't think a Matt Ryan-led Atlanta Falcons team, and even with a Taysom Hill-led Saints team, there's 6 points of separation between the two. I do not see that being the case. So I'll take the 6 points. I'm not saying that Falcons win this one. I think they keep it close. But I do think there's going to be a decent amount of scoring.
I agree with you. I think the Falcons end scoring is the play here. In fact, we're in, what do we call that? Lock unity.
Yes.
Because I have the Falcons as well.
Confetti is going to be coming.
Yeah, I like the Falcons in this game.
You like the over.
And I like the over. I think there's going to be points scored. No matter who plays quarterback for the Saints, they'll score on the Falcons defense. And I think Matt Ryan will score on the Saints defense. I think again, I'm going to go back to what I said, and it's happened 3 different times, and you disputed it every single time, but it's played out exactly that way. When a big game happens and the team wins the next week, they've had problems the next week. And it's happened it happened with the Cardinals and the Rams.
That's
after
true.
the Rams. It happened with the Ravens when they beat the Chargers and then lost to the
So
to
a
the
letdown
Bengals.
for the Saints in a divisional matchup
Let
at
down
home.
for the Saints
At
in the
home.
divisional,
Okay.
yeah, just like the Cardinals in a divisional matchup at home against the Rams. You watch, the Falcons will hang around in this game.
I'm picking for different reasons. We're on the same side here, but I don't think the Saints at home in a divisional matchup are just going to roll the ball out and say,
Not what
there
I'm
you
saying.
go, let's kick it off.
It's just natural.
Lock unity in that one. We've got a matchup between 1 and 7 teams. And hey, finally, the Texans and the Dolphins hook up. But it's not on a trade. It's in a football game this week. Dolphins favored by 7 at home.
Yeah, I wonder if Deshaun Watson doesn't travel and just maybe stay in Miami. Be like, I wish that would have happened. It didn't. No, I kid. Look, the Dolphins are not a good football team right now, but Tua's playing better football. I don't have concerns about this offensive line versus the Texans up front. Maybe I should, as bad as the Dolphins' offensive line has played. But I think there's enough mismatches. There's enough playmakers for the Dolphins versus the Texans secondary. They'll be able to put up enough points. They'll be able to cover this number. Probably wouldn't like it because I think there's a chance of a push here if it was any higher than 7. Because I don't think these teams are that far apart. But I'll go ahead and lay the 7 points here, and I think the under is the play. I don't see either team scoring a ton in this one.
When you get 2 bad teams together, usually the one that goes on the road is the one that's not as focused as the one at home. And so for that reason, I'm taking the Dolphins because these are 2 bad teams. And I think Tua is going to play well in this spot. I do.
You got history backing you up on that? Did our stats?
No, it's just Pete.
Right here. It's common sense.
It's Pete-isms.
It's common sense.
You know, it's crazy. As long as I've done this with Pete, he evolves. You know, like he used to break out things like the quarterback scale.
Yeah.
Right? He'd
Doesn't
weigh him
use
there,
those much anymore.
which I would think the quarterback scale here, Tua, right? He's the better of the 2.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a big Davis Mills guy.
I am a Davis
He
Mills
is.
guy. And Davis Mills has nothing around him. Nothing. Not that Tua has a ton. Not that Tua has a ton either, because everybody's always hurting. The offensive line stinks. Other than that, he has everything. But I'll take Miami.
Lock unity again.
Yeah, this scares me.
Back-to-back
I don't
lock
want to be.
unity.
I don't want to be dragged into his abyss. I mean, this is bad.
What are you talking about? I've had 2 winning weeks in a row. I beat you last week. You beat me by 1 this week.
Yeah, you're in an abyss.
Yeah.
What about your over/unders? I heard
Struggling of late.
We haven't talked about your record with the over/unders either.
It's gone a little south.
Remember you came in that one week. I was 13-3 with my over/unders. He hasn't
The
had a
difference
winning
is
week
like
yet.
I still feel those coming back to me. You, on the other hand, you don't even make those selections every once.
Yeah,
in a while.
I made a couple today.
You made a couple.
Made a
Thanks.
couple.
Thanks for showing
Yeah,
up.
but remember the week you came in 13-3. You're all chest is all
Actually,
out.
he said 14-2.
Yeah, that's right.
I was wrong. I was 13-3.
And then he has had a winning. He has had winning week since with him.
The
That's
lock
not true.
unities
That's not true.
in the Falcons, Saints, and Texans Dolphin game. Also agree on the Colts minus 10.5 Thursday night against the Jets. When we come back here, picking every game against the spread this week, we've got the early games on CBS. Can the Bengals bounce back? How about the Browns, Odell Beckham Jr. and his dad? Oh, what a situation there. 14 points against the Bills.
And I'm laying the points. This is a bad matchup. You pointed out, obviously, Juwan Taylor. This entire offensive line is going to have issues with the defensive front for the Buffalo Bills. So it's a bad matchup from that standpoint. The Jaguars struggle to get separation on the outside as it is. They're going to have struggle to get separation versus this Bills secondary. And then on the flip side, this defense, I don't know if it's whether the Bills want to run the football or what they want to do, pick their poison. They're going to have a hard time stopping this offense. So all the way around, there's a reason why the number's at where it is. I'm laying the 14 points with the road favorite here, Pete.
The Jaguars are one of the worst teams in the league defending the pass. And I don't think we've seen the best of Josh Allen throwing the football yet this year. Stephon Diggs had a touchdown catch last week. He hasn't had the type of season we thought he would. That changes here. They're going to light them up throwing the football. I think they put the big number up. And there's going to be more Bills fans in the stand than there is Jaguar fans.
That is true.
That's going to be a crazy place on Sunday. So I'll take the Bills minus the point.
They're going to be swimming in that pool or hot tub or whatever it is.
Well, they'll be doing their table jump into the pool. Crazy Bills fans.
Sportsline loves the Bills. They're the number one team, according to Sportsline. 24% chance to win the Super Bowl. That's the best number there. Good game on CBS at 1 o'clock Eastern time between the Browns and the Bengals. Two teams coming off losses. The Bengals favored by 3 at home.
The battle for Ohio. And who would have thought we'd be picking, especially coming into the season, the Bengals. But given 3 points, I'm going to lay the 3 points there. Pains me to do it being a former Brown, but the Bengals are just playing better football right now. Look, I know we want to look at what happened last week. As you would always say, Pete, you've taught me this. It's an aberration. It's not going to happen again, especially for this matchup, a divisional matchup. I think you're going to see a different side for the Bengals. I do think maybe, I'm not going to say it was a trap game, but I think they let their guard down versus a team that was feisty and wanted to try to find a way of getting a win. They did. And then they found a quarterback who balled out in Mike White. This will be different. The Browns have issues. I'm not sure how this whole Odell Beckham thing is going to go down within the locker room with Baker Mayfield. Baker's injured but struggling to throw the football effectively. I look at this matchup and think the Bengals are the better team right now, so I'll lay the 3 points with them. But I do think both teams will score a fair amount.
In most towns, that's a sandwich game, what happened last week. But in Cincinnati, it's a Skyline chili.
Skyline
game.
chili.
You have the spaghetti on the bottom, and then the chili, and then you top it with all that
Bunch of
other stuff
cheese,
on top.
all the cheese,
so it was a
onions,
Skyline
beans.
chili game. They played the Ravens on the road. Huge division game, correct? Won, played well, felt good about themselves. Go on the road to play a bad team. Next thing you know, you look up and you go, uh-oh, we're in a game here because they play the Browns this week.
Same thing happened to them, though, earlier this season with the Bears.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost to Chicago, another bad team.
Yeah, you got it. And they almost lost to Jacksonville. You have to stay focused. They're young. Young teams have a tendency to do that.
You saw, like Jamar Chase dropped a touchdown pass, lack of focus.
But I'm going to take the Bengals in this spot against the last place Browns with that deep roster. Remember that roster we all talked about? That's a shot at you.
That could be a shot at me all you want, but
Just so you know.
that roster still has sustained through a lot so far this year.
Yeah,
It's
they're
just
4-4. They're 500.
Yeah, well, their quarterback's not playing the way they need him to at this point, and the guys who are healthy clearly aren't playing up to that standard.
No. So you think the Bengals? You took the Bengals too.
Yep.
So the Browns are going to be under 500 after this week in our minds.
Yep.
Wow. Who would have thought that?
I might need to win this game to get into the postseason. A huge game. Could be a swing game here in the division. Speaking of 4-4, we got a couple of 4-4 teams facing off on CBS 1 Eastern time. Patriots minus 3.5 at the Panthers. Both these teams right in the thick of the playoff race. New England has really turned around its season the last couple of weeks.
It has. I mean, their offense is starting to click on all cylinders. Mac Jones seems really comfortable with what they're doing. Defensively, I think we've always known that they've been good. This one's interesting to me, though. You know, on the road, 3.5 points. I hate the hook. For that reason, I'm actually on the other side of this one. I'll take the 3.5 points. I can see the Patriots winning by a field goal. I think this will be closer than people think between these two teams. And again, you can see kind of that slow start and obviously where the Patriots are now. But for the Panthers, I think the defense will keep them in this one. I really do. And I think Sam Darnold, if he can just take care of the football, that's the biggest thing. We all know when
where is he in the concussion protocol?
Take care of
himself.
himself.
And that's going to be a concern, too, with it. And obviously, if he's not playing in this one, I'm going to be on the other side. I'm anticipating him playing in it, given how early in the week we're making this call and how fast everyone seems to be coming back from the concussion protocol. I mean, it seems like this year, every single time someone's in it, they somehow find a way back on the field the next game.
It's a Stephon Gilmore revenge game, right? He's going to be facing his former team. He's going to play harder. Look, the Patriots are playing consecutive road games, which is always a concern to me. But
it's usually a death sentence for people.
I'm going to buck the trend. Because I think the offense of the Carolina Panthers is awful. And I think that's going to show up again. and I think New England will have a good defense. They did a great job last week against Justin Herbert. You go from trying to slow down Justin Herbert and the Chargers to trying to slow down Sam Darnold and the Panthers. I think that's easy by comparison. I'll lay the 3.5 points.
The biggest thing I think is Sam Darnold utilizing his legs. He's done that a lot this year. That's where he could have an advantage, or at least kind of prevent some of those ill-timed turnovers he's had, but also kind of find that weak spot of the Patriots.
Yeah, that worked out well for him last week.
Well, look, again, and everyone's going to play, but that's how he's got to play. To your point, this offense isn't necessarily creating a lot of big plays. They're going to have to utilize his legs from time to time if they're going to be able to find production.
Stay in the pocket, Sam. Stay in the pocket.
Numbers are very different from Sportsline, even though both these teams are 4-4. Patriots, 48% chance to make the postseason. Panthers, just an 11% chance to make it, even though right now they hold that last playoff spot in the NFC. One more game on CBS early, and it's the Raiders -3 against the 2-6 Giants coming off that Monday night loss to Kansas City.
This one, to me, has to do with the quarterback play. I just trust Derek Carr more so than I do Daniel Jones. Now, that's not taking into account that Henry Ruggs may not be a part of this game. We don't know how that situation is going to figure itself out. But I think the Raiders will be able to outscore the Giants. The Giants' defense has been improved. It was disappointing to start the year. It's been much better of late. But I worry about the turnovers. I mean, literally, the start of that game versus Kansas City last week, the way that begins, you can't afford to do that versus the Chiefs team and then spot them 7 points after they just gave you the football, turning it over to begin the entire game. So this is a spot where I don't trust Daniel Jones not to turn the football over, not to make that back-breaking mistake. I'll lay the 3 points and be on the side of the Raiders.
I'm taking the Giants. I think their defense played well against the Chiefs, and I think that's a good sign when you're getting ready to play the Raiders. The Raiders, their identity is their offense, and I think the Giants' defense did some good things. They'll slow them down a little bit, make them be patient, just like they did Patrick Mahomes. And I think Daniel Jones. I think
that's not how teams have been playing the Raiders, though. Like they use the same game plan everyone's been using against the Chiefs this year. It's different for the Raiders. You're not going to play as many drop 7, drop 8 coverages you saw versus the Chiefs. I'm sorry.
I think they're going to play well against them. I think the Giants, they'll win the game outright. You don't need the points.
Oh,
yeah.
really?
I gave you that last week with the Saints on the money line, remember?
Okay.
Yeah.
He did say that.
Moneyline Petey there. Okay, let's recap the picks for the early games on CBS from Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn. Agreement on the Bengals, -3 at home against the Browns, and on the Bills, -14 in Jacksonville. Up next, hit the late afternoon games highlighted by the Packers and the Chiefs. Boy, another big game for Aaron Rodgers. The Chiefs, a statement here to say that, hey, we're still the Chiefs. We'll see. We love Caesars Sportsbook. Always giving us the lines for our NFL games as we pick every game against the spread. These are the late afternoon games, just a handful of them. Only one of them on CBS. That's the Chargers -2.5 against the Eagles. And the other two games, 4:25 Eastern Time. Chiefs at home, laying points to Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, who are on a roll. Cardinals, the team the Packers beat last week at the 49ers, and they're only giving 2.5 in that one. So let's pick them with Brady Quinn and Pete Prisco, and let's start with the Chargers and the Eagles. Justin Herbert and the Chargers have lost 2 straight.
Yeah, he's kind of struggled a little bit lately. It seems like their offense is all of a sudden hit a rut, having a hard time trying to figure out how to get some of the production, some of the bigger plays we've seen from them downfield. That's a concern here, although I don't think it really should be. I think they match up well versus the Eagles secondary and creating some of those big plays. On the flip side, this Eagles offense, as if you want to say that the Chargers have struggled, the Eagles have struggled mightily. So if that's the case, I'll gladly lay the 2.5 points, even though I do think this will be a low-scoring game. I think it could be ugly. We'll see what the weather looks like, but I feel confident the Chargers are the much better team in this case.
I think the Chargers will bounce back here. They have not played well on offense the last 2 weeks, and I hate what they're doing to the quarterback. Hate it. Let him free. Set him free. I mean, this guy was throwing the ball all over the place last year.
What's changed? How defenses are defending him. They're not allowing him to chuck it downfield like they were.
Yeah, and they're not allowing him to throw as much on early downs. I don't think they're letting him play a little free and loose. And there's a lot of criticism out there about the offensive coordinator, Joe Lombardi, and rightfully so. If he doesn't pick it up, look at those numbers from the last 2 weeks. That's repulsive. That should never happen to a guy with that kind of talent, and those receivers, by the way, because he's got good receivers. So I think they need to pick it up. I think they do pick it up against the Eagles this week, and if they don't, they're in big trouble. So I think they win the game.
All right, 4:25 Eastern time, maybe the game of the weekend. The Packers and the Chiefs. Certainly going into the season, you would have put this game up there. We didn't expect the struggles from Kansas City, but despite those struggles, they're still a 3-point favorite at home.
This is the fishiest line to me.
It sure is.
It doesn't make any sense, because if you're going to give me 3 points and the Green Bay Packers, I'll gladly take it. They're playing much better football right now. They've showcased the ability to run the football effectively, defensively. They'll be able to get after Patrick Mahomes and this offensive line. Even though the Chiefs' offensive line has improved, not anywhere close to what it needs to be. So I think Aaron Rodgers is going to have an absolute field day versus this Chiefs defense. And I think on the flip side, the Packers' defensive front will get after Patrick Mahomes. I think it could be a long day, so I'm laying the 3 points, or I'll take the 3 points here.
I agree with you 100%. The line looks really funny. And normally, if on a good Chiefs team playing a good Packers team, the line's probably, 5 at home? And it's 3 now, and this Chiefs team is playing really bad football. Any other team goes in there last night, a good team goes in there and beats them by a touchdown easily.
I mean, should the Chiefs be favored in this game?
That's a good question. And
maybe
probably,
a point,
yeah,
but not 3 points.
It looks fishy. We're probably being idiots by taking the Packers, but I'm taking them as well. I do think that Aaron Rodgers is going to light them up. Look, when he went and played the Cardinals, he didn't have his weapons. They ran the football. If this team plays back, he's going to run the football again, but I don't think they will. I think they'll be aggressive. That's who Spagnuolo is. He'll come after him. He'll hit some shots down the field. Love Rodgers in this game. I'll take the Packers.
Highest total of the week at 55.5. You went under, correct?
Yep.
Pete doesn't have a pick on that.
No, but I would go over.
You would go over.
Yep.
Okay. Moving on to the Cardinals, who are playing for the first time since losing that heartbreaker to the Packers last week, at the 3-4 49ers trying to get back in the playoff hunt.
These two teams always play each other tough, even though I think if you look at the records, you think the Cardinals are the much better team at this point. But something tells me the 49ers will hang around in this one. They'll be able to run the football a little bit. I talked about the absence of J.J. Watt, how that's impacted things. Yeah, I'm on the other side of you. I'm on the other side of you from this one. I'm going to lay the 2.5 points. I think the Cardinals will win a close, low-scoring game, but I think at the end they'll find a way of winning. A little concerned with Kyler Murray's health. But all in all, I think they're just too much offensive firepower for what the San Francisco 49ers defense is.
You know what I loved last week from the 49ers win? Paisan passion. Did you see it? Did you see Garoppolo score his touchdown and throw the ball into the crowd and basically tell everybody, hey, look, I'm not nearly what you think I am as a quarterback? That was Paisan passion. I loved it. And he's going to play well in this game. Yeah. I think they're going to be able to.
That Paisan passion ain't going to matter much when Kyler Murray's running around everywhere.
Well, but
they go find a pizza somewhere.
But Kyler Murray's banged up. Let's not forget he left that game and he was on crutches. He's banged up a little bit, and if he's banged up, he's a different quarterback, and he's a much different quarterback. So for that reason, I'll take Jimmy G and the 49ers over Kyler Murray.
If he's not a Paisan, are you taking him?
Yeah, I think yes, absolutely. I'm not taking him for that reason. I'm taking him because I think they're going to beat them.
We weren't quite sure with your rationale there.
No, it was just funny the way he threw the football into the crowd. It was almost like he said he gave him the one-fingered peace sign without giving it to him. Basically.
Pete Prisco's Paisan passion, the quadruple P here on HQ. Let's recap the picks from the late afternoon games. They agree on the Chargers -2.5 at the Eagles, and the Packers +3 at the Chiefs. Prime time games Sunday night and Monday night. Ooh, that Sunday nighter, not as juicy as it would have been if Derrick Henry wasn't gone, likely for the season. Rams 7.5-point favorites in that one, and then what are we doing with putting the Bears on Monday Night Football again at the Steelers? The total is 40 points in that game. Yikes. Let's start with the Sunday nighter. First game for the Titans without Derrick Henry.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to see how they adjust. I mean, this puts a lot of pressure on Ryan Tannehill and their ability to throw the football down the field. What's Julio Jones' health? That's going to play a big factor into all this. And, oh, by the way, you're going to have to keep pace with that Rams offense. It's putting up big numbers. Should be another game where they put up some big numbers. Even though the front, I think, has been able to get after it for Tennessee, I don't see any issues here. So I'm laying the 7.5 points. But I do think this game's going to be under. I think Tennessee's going to have a hard time scoring points versus the Rams defense. I think they might take some time before they find their flow without Derrick Henry back there. And even with Adrian Peterson, who's obviously up there in age, this is probably going to be more of a running back by committee to even come close to what the rushing attack was before.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Rams here. When I look at that Titans defense, they've played better, but they haven't faced an offense like this, and I think they're going to light him up. I think Matt Stafford's going to have a huge game here. And what's the identity of the offense now for Tennessee? We don't know. And it certainly isn't Adrian Peterson, I can tell you that. And nor would I have signed him. He's old. You should have got a young guy. So what's the identity? It puts more pressure on Ryan Tannehill. You defend him differently. The eighth man doesn't have to come down anymore. So that puts more pressure on the outside guys too. Is Julio Jones healthy? Will he be back? So there's all kinds of questions for the offense. For that reason, I'm taking the Rams.
All right, Sportsline loves the Rams in the NFC. They're the #1 ranked team in the NFC with the best chance of making the Super Bowl, according to Sportsline. Monday nighter, Bears at the Steelers, and Pittsburgh, maybe a chance to finally win a game by more than a score. I believe all 4 of their wins have been by 1 score. They've got the Bears coming in, a really low total. Pittsburgh now in playoff position.
They're in playoff position, and they are improving. You know, we kind of tend to forget a little bit of a rebuild offensive line, a lot of young players playing for this offense. And so it takes some time to kind of find yourself. And I think the Steelers are starting to find that rhythm a little bit. This shouldn't be as much of a challenge, though. I mean, this Bears defense hasn't been what it's been in past years. Offensively, they're not going to get much pressure put on them with as much as they've struggled offensively. And I do think the Steelers' defensive front seven will be able to get after Justin Fields, even though the Bears are trying to run the football a little bit more. Fields playing a part of that helps out. But bottom line is, I'm laying the 6.5 points. I think that's the best bet here. I do think the Steelers will put up a decent number. I think the Bears will score a little bit in this one.
Yeah, I have the Steelers as well. I just don't see the Bears moving the football against that defense consistently. That offensive line is bad in front of Justin Fields, which is why he had to run for over 100 yards last week. And the Steelers will get after him in this game. That'll lead to some short fields and turnovers, but I don't think it's going over. This is one of the few games where I actually picked an over-under.
40 points?
And we're on the other side.
That's low.
We're on the other side of it, I know.
That's low, though.
But you know what? The way your over-under picks have been going, I feel good about this.
Okay, hey, we'll revisit this next week then.
We'll revisit this one. This is one.
Just like we'll revisit that Minnesota-Dallas pick that worked out well for you.
Right, that was a bad pick because I had Kirk Cousins at prime
Not
time.
picking Kirk Cousins
I can admit that. I can admit that. It was a bad pick.
All right, they agree on the spreads for both primetime games. They both like the home favorites. The Rams to cover the 7.5 against the Titans, and the Steelers -6.5 against the Bears. The buys this week, we mentioned the Lions. Brady didn't have to worry about that. Lions have killed him this season. But also Washington, Seattle, and Tampa on buys this week. We're halfway home, guys.
I know.
Can you believe it?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
How about fast?
Yeah, if life went as fast as the football season, we'd
He
all be
wanted to
dead.
throw the white flag and stop now.
We'd all be dead. At least I would be.
He just wanted to
You're
quit
just
right
trying
now.
to cruise to victory here. You got that short 5-game lead.
I'm not
on
worried
Brady.
about. I'm not
I
worried
just need
about it.
one
I
game
see
a
his
week.
picks
That's all
every
I
week.
need.
I'm not worried about it.
One game a week.
All right, for Pete Prisco and Brady Quinn, I'm Chris Hassel. HQ presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Thanks for watching.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.